Hello, and welcome back to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck on Spanglish World and her network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Well, Chuck, here we are again this week. I'm really excited to talk about identity this week with you. You know, this was such an important topic to me because when I was growing up, trying to figure out who I was, being the first generation born in the United States, both my parents being from India, trying to figure out where do I fit in the world? Who am I? Who am I? And I realized that the loneliness that I felt in my life really started with the fact that I did not know my identity. And you and I had prefaced this at a few shows ago when we talked about the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And wearing those different masks to be something that I thought I needed to be for everyone else. And I do believe that geared me to being a person who was definitely externally driven. Because I couldn't find the answers here.
Right.
I had to look everywhere else to figure out who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And I would probably say it wasn't until I was probably in my mid 30s when I started to really figure out that that was the cause of my loneliness.
It is interesting. There's a saying like your 20s are for experimenting and fun. Your 30s are for continuity and growth. And your 40s are for putting in practice everything that you learn in your, I'll say, early, higher level adolescence. And so, to your point, identity is such a critical factor in most people's lives. And it's one area that most people spend the least amount of time cultivating.
Yes.
We have a mentor, very big guy with large teeth, deep voice. And he says he created his identity. And I wonder at times how much of who we are is natural, how much of who we are in our identity is appreciated, and on the other side of it, how much is cultivated, and if you want to call it, strategized.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because when you do that, it goes back to that learning, when I was getting my psych degree, that whole nurture versus nature.
Yes.
And so just saying this, like, let's just use me as an example. So I knew at a young age that I definitely was a leader. I definitely knew that I was not going to be quiet about things. I definitely knew no matter how much I was bullied, I still had a voice.
Yes.
I definitely knew resilience, persistence. People would even say that I was confident, which is interesting because I felt no confident, but other people saw that because what was confidence? It's that courage to keep going, the bravery to actually do it, right? Not just to stand at the door of fear, but break through it.
Right.
I had that in me.
Yes.
I had that in me. Nobody saw me go home and cry at night, but what they saw that was in me and the strength that I had through that experience was in me. It's innate in me. I see it in my mom. I'm sitting here at my mom's house and I'm watching my mom and I was like, that's where I got that. Oh, that's where I got that too.
And it's all the stuff we said, I'm never going to be like you. Oh, just one. And all of a sudden you're like going, ruh-roh.
Yep. But to your point, when that was innate in me, I did not see it that way. I saw it as too loud, obnoxious, irritating. She talks too much. She asks too many questions. That's how I heard it and saw it.
Right.
And then when we say we cultivate it, because those things were in me and just had to be reframed to see it through a different light, I feel I was able to build on it and build above it.
I am going to intervene for just a moment and add something and see if this flavors it differently.
Okay.
What if you actually believed that you could achieve and you had the courage to fail, which allowed you to get lessons? Because it wasn't like, oh, I'm hitting it 100% every time. It's like, no, I'm swinging and missing. And yet I believe that I'm worth it. It's some, and it's not even, let me rephrase that. It's not even the feeling of worth. It's actually going, this just is right. Like, this is the way it should be. This isn't something that it's not supposed to be. I'm just not there yet. And I go, ooh, that all comes from belief. That all comes from this deep
Right.
drive within ourselves that we are not broken, but we're not done cooking either. And it's like, okay, to your point, nurturing, that we love enough of everybody else as well, and ourselves, we respect ourselves enough. Now we're going to continue to push forward, irrespective of what goes on. It doesn't mean, to your, like you said, it doesn't mean you don't go home and cry. Even for guys, I mean, I remember times being so nervous and going, oh my gosh, I got to get up in front of the whole, student assembly tomorrow and deliver to become the commissioner general for, my 8th grade class. Or, oh my gosh, freshman year running for student body, president, and doing it year over year. And I literally was going, I'm a nobody, but that was good. You know why? Because everybody else is a nobody too, until there's somebody.
Right. Right. And, I do like that, because when I was younger, there was things that I saw myself. There's things that I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I said I was going to have a boy-girl twin. I accomplished that, Chuck. I accomplished it. A little late, but I accomplished it. I said,
hey, no one put an hourglass, and said, okay, the clock's ticking.
I wish there was, but I'm also grateful for my gifts. Let me say that.
Yes.
I'm grateful for my 2 blessings. And I also said that I wanted to have a TV show. And that's what was so interesting, is wanting a TV show, but I wanted it for different reasons. I want it now to bring awareness. I want it now to help people get out of their story and move into something more positive. I want it now to inspire and impact the world. I wanted it back then because I wanted to be seen and heard. I wanted it back then because I wanted to be noticed. I wanted it back then because then I thought I wouldn't be alone. So the idea was still there. The definition of the why changed.
Absolutely. Well, and let's be clear.
Oh, I think Chuck froze a little. So
felt so much.
Here he is. You were frozen just a little bit. You're good now.
I apologize. These hotel Wi-Fis are always sketchy. And what I was saying is that your values didn't change. What did shift was how we start to justify the emotions and feelings that we're having. Because at that point, you're using the fuel of choice. You didn't have that much life experience at that point. So you picked what was the low-hanging fruit. And I go, this is the gift, though, about belief. When you believe till you achieve, you will continue on and use all of your resources, all of your resourcefulness to start to find that true meaning for yourself. Much like you, I didn't go, oh, I'm manifesting a TV show. I was manifesting being able to connect with other people who are like-minded, like-hearted, and help the world heal by putting out great information, by giving insights and distinctions. But I made a commitment. I said, I only want to work with people I love and adore and appreciate. And voila, I get my sister from another mister. And it's like, that's not by happenstance. Your twins are not by happenstance. Us being together on the show, not by happenstance.
Yeah.
I'll call it divine belief that at some point in time, it was going to happen. And I would actually say that if we were to look at our human by design algorithms and how we're wired, that you and I would probably be very similar, and that's manifestors.
Oh, yes. I guarantee.
And because I just saw my reading the other day, and it was like, I'm a manifestor. I invariably believe you are too. And this is what's really cool. We make up less than 11% of the world population. Now people go, why? Is that special? I said, no, the identity is that we look at how we can help co-elevate ourselves and others, knowing that if we don't exercise self-care, and this is part of the identity process. And it's something that I had to learn, and I know through your stories and your background, is something that you learned as well. And that was how to take care of self, so that together, when we're blending ecologies and we're bringing all of our cumulative knowledge together with other people, that soulfulness, that energy, that resonance frequency, that we're not at 10 hertz. We're like at 50 hertz, 100 hertz. We're resonating at a really high level. And that's why it attracts more people together.
Right. Right.
A balloon that's 5 feet off the ground doesn't attract much attention. 500 feet off the ground gets more attention. 5,000 feet off the ground, oh, now you can see it clear as day. From where? Everywhere.
Right. So, bringing it back to the full circle of that identity, it's that nature, that nurture, that knowing, the manifesting of what we really know at our core that we're going to cultivate, nurture, and grow into. What I found that was so distinctive is that anything that follows I am, we're identifying ourselves,
Yes.
right? And that was probably a pivotal point for me to learn that, because the I ams did not sound so pretty when I was growing up. There was
Right.
a lot of self-beating. I think that we all are professionals at that. I think many of us have a PhD in self-beating, and
Oh,
to learn how to self-build, to learn how to put a positive
yes.
adjective after I am, a positive description of myself instead of too noisy. I am too noisy. I am, obnoxious. I am irritating. As I am a leader.
Hmm.
I am someone who stands up for the rights of others. I am resilient. I am confident. I am a manifester. Like, there's so many I ams that I can say now that
Yes.
have fully replaced those negative feelings about me. But here's what changed the most is that when they're just words, you don't feel them, because a lot of people will say, just do the affirmation, go run in place for 30 minutes and jump up and down and say, I am this, I am that, and you're going to be it. No, something has to change. You have to figure out that worth in you, that you are worth that. You're worthy of that word. You're worthy. You could see it. You have evidence of it. You have the certainty of it, of that word.
And part of this is really learning to appreciate
Mm,
and honor that the universe doesn't create junk, and that if you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't be.
correct.
You wouldn't be. Everything has a purpose. Everything. People go, well, evil has a purpose. Serial killers have a purpose. And I said, actually, they do. There's such extreme, and I'm not saying that that's a great thing or something you should advocate for. What I'm saying is that there are nuances and examples where such horrific mistakes have been made, such instigated insecurity where someone in their life, how do you get to that point? And I go, identity. They didn't have any self-worth, so now they become something that they believe will get them attention or gravitas or energy, or they'll take other people's energy. They'll become the ultimate taker and not a cultivator or a giver. And their beliefs are, I'm going to be asocial.
Mm,
Because we're talking about identity, and that door swings both ways. We've advocated and really urged ourselves and others to find the best in themselves, to cultivate and nurture that. What would we say to someone, though, that has an identity that's less than empowering? Is it still an identity? And I go, it is,
yes.
but does it give? Does it serve? Or does it take and feed off of the energy, the essence of that person? And does it come at a detriment to others?
Right.
It's not real sustainable.
And there's that victim mentality, right? Because
Oh,
we get so much connection when we're hurting.
yes.
Everyone's afraid to be vulnerable because then people might know we hurt. But yet when we hurt, we get connection and there's people there, and all of a sudden we don't feel alone. And so it's this conundrum I see people getting caught in all the time. And it's that victim mentality that keeps them at that identity of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it. And that's why they have to play the victim, because they need proof. Their brain's looking for proof that they're worth it. They're looking for proof that I am good enough for you to contact me.
And judgment and comparison become the benchmark
Ooh,
standards. And I know. I mean, it is remarkable how many people are just using the compared to the Joneses, trying to keep up with them.
we
And
just
it's
talked
like,
about that last week.
yeah,
Last week, we just talked about that, how comparison is the thief of every dream, everything we own.
every ounce of happiness.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's another thing. So once we identify who we are, here's the kicker is that we have an identity when I'm a coach. I have an identity when I'm with my husband. I have an identity when I'm a mom. I have
Yeah.
an identity when I'm a friend. We have so many, and that just like starts to confuse people more because it's like, well, then who am I? Who
Right.
am I if I'm different here, here, and here? Am I being who I really am? Or again, like we talked about weeks ago, the imposter syndrome, or am I faking it? And that's where people have that issue of really knowing who am I?
Well, we asked the question, right? Are you the same person in the boardroom as the bedroom? Are you the same person in the bedroom as you are in church? Are you the same person in church as you are in the playground? And the answer is same body, slightly different nuances. Because I'm not competitive in church. I'm competitive on the playground. Like if I'm playing tennis, basketball, track, pickleball, I don't care what it is. You know me, Veenu. I'm competitive.
You're
And I don't always have to win. I'm looking to have fun and have an experience,
Mhm.
right? So part of it's the outcomes, but the truth is that to your point, identity is a manifestation as to who we feel we need to be in that moment in order to have the experience that meets an expectation.
Yeah.
So in church, we have this expectation as to what the engagement should look like and feel like. Spirituality, connection, higher source, uh, centered, balanced, connecting with other human souls and energy in rejoicing to a higher power.
It's we're not in control for the first time in our life. I mean, I hope you don't feel like you're in control at church.
No,
Because
I feel like a participant in church.
right.
And that's the whole thing is we're communing, right? We're connecting. And then it's like, oh, in the boardroom. Oh, well, wait a second. Is it a board meeting? Is it a hostile takeover? Is it a merger? Are we negotiating? It's like, what are we talking about? Contracts, money, time, commitments? It's like, boy, a very different focus. And it doesn't feel quite as collaborative as church does. But the truth is, it could be.
Right. Right.
What's our identity, though? What if we actually adopted a spiritual identity when we're in the boardroom?
Mm.
How might the negotiations be different?
What if you adopted the fact that you let go of the control and you
That
didn't have to be in charge when you're in the boardroom?
yes. And for
How
some people, what if they were the same way in the bedroom?
And here's the opposite. Those people that are sitting in the boardroom that want change and don't know how to speak up for change, you know?
Well, and again, their identity could be that I'm subservient, I'm here to listen, that my station is in high as the CEO, the CFO, the COO, an executive, but middle management. I need
Mhm.
to be seen and not heard. I'll get my marching orders. They'll give me the paradox that I'm supposed to be living with in the frame that I'm supposed to function in. And it's like, going, boy, different identity, right? Is it even true though? And the answer is no. It's how you define yourself. And
Right.
so, if in the human condition, one of the strongest needs that we have is to remain consistent with our identity, then we really do get to understand that how our identity is postulated and created is from the emotions and feelings that we would need to feel most often. But most people never go through this exercise to acknowledge, appreciate, and understand who they are and all these different facets of their life as a mother, as a spouse, as a friend, as a professional woman, as an executive, an entrepreneur. It's like, ooh, we wear all these different hats. Which one's right? Which one's wrong? I said, it's all relative.
It is. To the situation at hand. Where are you at? What do you need to do?
Yes.
But there's a core thing in us,
Yes.
and that's really what we need to focus on is that you are definitely going to wear different hats in different situations, and they all are a part of you, but there's certain values that
And
align.
that's the key. That's the secret sauce. I know Veenu Keller, honest, integrous, driven, wholesome, truthful. I go, okay, well, I know her to be that way in all of those environments, all of them. So there's this core of 70 to 80% of the essence of a person. And then there's a shift. And the shift is that on the other side, there are certain modalities of us that start to pop into play that are situational specific to the scenario, to the environment. And I go, that's why it's the same body showing up. That's why some people at work go, I wonder if she's like that in her family life.
Yeah.
And sometimes my kids will go, I wonder if he's like that at work. Huh.
And it shows up in different tonalities for sure at home. And yet the drive is still there. The
Yes.
honesty is there. The truth is still there. I mean, that is me. That is my values. And here's where we get off kilter, if you would, when we're not living in correlation to those values.
Yes.
And here's the number one thing, and I'd like to know your opinion. The number one thing I think that knocks us off kilter is judgment.
Oh, hands down. Hands down. In fact, I would say that there's a difference between measuring and judging. So if I'm on a journey, I don't know how far I've gone unless I measure. I don't know how long I've been gone unless I measure. I don't know if I'm going to run out of fuel unless I look at the measurement. And so there are certain inalienable details that go along with the progress and the journey. What we can say those things are the currency: time, energy, money, intention, distance, whatever the case might be. There's a currency for every single experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put it a different way and say it's an investment. Now that feels a little different.
Yep.
Instead of going, the cost for this was, I go, oh, the investment?
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth it? They go, it really was.
Well, when we find the gift, that's when we figure out the
Yes.
investment was worth it. And here's what we can share with the world is, if you want to change anything around, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, find the gift.
Oh, without question.
Something can go wrong, very wrong, and yet you can still find the gift.
Absolutely. And so there's a question that beckons, because we've had people, and I'm sure someone's going to pop in and say this at some point in time. Well, what if you can't find it? I searched everywhere. It's like, everywhere? I've tried everything, Chuck and Veenu. I've tried everything. You have no idea. I searched at the ends of the earth. Okay. And yet looking external to you and trying to find the change within you will never give you the answer.
Correct.
And so it's simple. You change one of three things: your physiology, your focus, or your language. Because every belief system, every emotion and feeling is a culmination of those three attributes. And you start to change any of them, and you change the meaning, the optics, the differentiation, the measurement around the experience. And we get to cultivate a different side of ourselves. Acknowledge that side of ourselves, feel that side of ourselves. And it's like, that does feel a lot better. Like,
yeah.
Huh. And what was the change? Well, I shifted my point of view, and I go, oh, your focus. Okay. I actually got up and moved my body. Wow. Motion creates emotion. So physiology first, as we often say. And the last part, they go, but the language thing. I said, oh, really? Because if you're telling yourself, I am loud, I am rambunctious, I am obnoxious, I am high energy, I go, yes, you are. What's the difference between rambunctious? I go, oh, you're driven? Oh, okay. Whoa, that feels a little different though, doesn't it? I said, I don't know, just offering it. You're loud. I said, oh, you're committed.
Right.
You're passionate.
I'm just going to give like a easy example for people out there that are listening or that are coming on is how we can take something bad and see the good. So, if you have an appointment to get to, like even if it's your wedding, right? Say it's your wedding, you have to be there by 6 and you're late. You're late for your own wedding. And then when you go and you get there, you find out that there was an accident that happened 5 minutes before. So if you were on time, you could have been in that accident. So where's the gift now? So you could put all the energy and focus, like you said, focus into, oh my gosh, I'm late. What are people going to think? It's my own wedding. And if you stay in that negativity, that's the emotions you're going to get from it. And when you say, yeah, but what's the gift? The gift is I made it here and I'm safe and I wasn't the one in the accident. And I'm still at the altar and I'm still here to get married. And now all of a sudden, how the emotions feel. So you could take anything that is bothering you. And like you said, where you put the focus is going to create that emotion in it.
Oh,
It's going to create that emotion. And yes, I do believe in physiology. I do believe that we need to move our bodies, get out of it. Like I was with my mom today and we were talking about something in the post office and I just got teary-eyed and I was like, okay, this is not the time to have a little tears in my eyes. So I just kind of looked around. I was like, oh, look at the price tags on those little cards. Like just in my brain, I just changed my physiology by changing my body, changing what my eyes were looking at.
yes.
Because immediately when I did that, it changed my focus.
Yes.
Which stopped the tears.
Yes.
Which gave me an opportunity to process what I was needed to say or do at the post office at that point, right? So it's that simple. It's that simple because every day that you spend focusing on what you don't have, what you wish you had, what you could do better, you're only focused on that. And that's the emotions you're going to attract to you. If you're only focused on what's not great about you, that I am ugly, I am fat, I am disgusting, I am I am somebody that has no friends.
Right.
What emotions is that going to bring up to you? And how do you expect yourself to change when the emotions are bombarding you so much? And people say, Chuck, I can't get out that though. Like, but that's just how I see when I look in the mirror, I just feel fat. Like I just can't do it, Chuck. I just can't do it.
Well, this goes back to a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about doing versus being. And,
Ah,
and right. And so part of this is that every one of those scenarios you just mentioned that had a disempowering state to them all had low energy. There wasn't one of those that you go, oh yeah, I'm spiking through the roof. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped to feel crappy. I'm so pumped to feel less than and marginalized. And it's like, no. And misery loves company. So have you ever seen a group of people who are just like the Debbie Downers?
mm-hmm.
They should just have it printed on the back of their shirt. The Debbie Downer dancers. Hey, we're so happy. We're so No.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, I'm elated to be here, Veenu.
me too. I'm so happy, Chuck.
Most excitement. Okay. All day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. Can't you tell I'm happy?
Elated. And that's the point. It's like there's people who go, you ask them, how you feeling?
I'm great.
I'm great.
So great.
If life was any better, there'd be two of me. And you're like going, wow. And I would be doubly depressed watching this exchange. And so this comes back to one simple thing that you brought up, and I so commend you for this. It's actually two things, but they're coupled in this one scenario. Authenticity. It's like we need to be authentically real and truthful with ourselves.
100%.
But when we're in this state, and this is where the rubber meets the road, we've got to be present. I know some people that are beautiful dreamers and they are so like hyped constantly because everything is about the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I wondered why. And I started to realize something. Most of these people, not all, but most of them actually appreciate the now.
Mm.
Because it's difficult to move forward if you don't appreciate where you are now. But that's what gives them the ability to move forward.
Right.
Now, there's a difference between someone who's a manifester and a dreamer. And I love them both. But a manifester is going to look at things and dream to set outcomes and expectations and engagements that give themselves that platform, those standards to rise and move forward. A dreamer, they're shiny penny 2065.
They're laying on the bed dreaming.
Oh,
they're not standing up and moving towards.
They're not manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're stuck in hopium. No, I mean, they're addicted to it. It's like, and hopium is a terrible drug. I love hope. I love hoping that things are going to improve. But hope, when action is involved and commitment, creates results. Hopium is the addictive nature of that tendency to hope that you're going to move forward, hoping you're going to make progress, hoping that someone's going to back you, hope that someone's going to see you, hope that someone's going to go ahead and make you an offer that you can't refuse. And I'm like going, wow. I knew a guy, he said, hey, I hope we'll win the lottery. I said, Tim, that's great. Buy a ticket? Nope. Are you hoping someone's going to give you the ticket so that you can win the lotto?
Yep.
And I was like going, at some point in time, you need to be an active participant in your own salvation.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I learned that from one of our good friends, Lauren LaHob, when she says, you know, aid in your own rescue. Yeah. I use that all the time, even with my kids. It's aid in your own rescue. Please, aid in your own rescue, because I will meet you halfway. And I feel like that's what the universe does with us. So I actually don't like the word hope. I think hope is a word that's a fluff word. What does hope do? It's not a verb. It's not going to do anything. Great. I hope it doesn't rain. Well, it's raining. So now what?
Oftentimes it gets thrown in, and you're right. It's a fluff word. It's kind of like an accentuator.
When there's nothing else to feel, when there's nothing else you can feel. Like, I hope the war in Russia and Ukraine end. I hope it does. I don't know what action I can take towards making that happen. So all I'm left with is hoping.
Well, so this is a great point. So if you're a world leader and go, I hope the war in Ukraine ends. It's different than if you go, I believe that we can put an end to this war.
Absolutely, because it's the leadership.
That's
the leadership.
And guidance and commitment. There is a fervor in there that's going, we're going to make something happen. I may not know what all that is yet, but I believe. I believe in people. I believe in processes. I believe in democracy. I believe in justice. I don't hope justice. I don't hope people.
So I think that it's a great opportunity to say, where do we lead? So, you know, I was telling you, I was in Africa. Well, you know, I was in Africa a few, it's a couple months ago now. It seems like just yesterday. And there was an orphanage there. And I really hope that they could take more kids and rescue these kids from sex trafficking off the street. I hope they can. And I hope they can have food. And there's all this hope. But then I thought, but there's something I can do.
Yes.
So my husband and I got them running water. We got them a washing machine. We got them chickens. We're in the process of getting them goats now. It's taking that hope and being a leader inside of it. I know there's something that I can do with it. I can make a difference now, and it can be sustainable. So it takes away the hope. While other people are hoping that it all works out, that aren't taking action. And there's some people, that's all they got. Like, sometimes that's all you got is to hope. I get it. And where in your life do you need to do more? Where in your life, where do you need to be a leader in your own life and step up into that identity? What is your identity today that needs to get you what you want tomorrow?
Hope is just the jump off point. It's like a wish. It turns into belief when we take action, when we commit resources and we schedule it. That's when it becomes a belief. Why? Because now I believe we're making progress. I believe we're moving forward. I believe we're going to succeed. Why? Well, here's the evidence. Here are the action items. Here are the nuances around it. I didn't say, I hope someone's going to give us goats. I hope someone's going to give chickens. I hope someone's going to bring running water. I hope someone's going to give a washing machine. It's like, okay, hope floats nothing. In fact, it's extremely detrimental. Hopium is it's more addictive than sugar. There are more people addicted to hoping that life is going to get better. hoping that they're going to have more financial remuneration, hoping that they're going to actually have safe, healthy, and happy kids. And I go, wow, why don't you spend some time with them? Why don't you believe that if you engage with your children, that their lives would be enhanced? Why don't you believe that if you actually worked a few extra hours or put your focus on increasing your value proposition, that you would increase your financial remuneration?
Mhm.
Oh, is it that simple? Yep. We make things so complicated, and we know that what kills execution is complexity. So what does it have to do with identity?
Everything.
Exactly. Because if you're a hoper and that's part of your identity, then your actions are going to be driven by just hoping, which means you'll do nothing except dream some more and hope some more. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in today's climate that this is their modus operandi. This is their, if you had a standard operating procedure, this would be it. This would be their job description. And so here's a question then, Veenu. Can you subscribe to hope and be a leader?
I mean, my model of the world, no.
It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? It's an
It
interesting
is. It
theory.
is. You're making me think here, but on the spot, and I might have a different answer from it later because I'm going to ponder it. But on the spot, because I feel hope has no action behind it, and if I'm a true leader, I can see change. And even though if I can't make the change, I can create resources that can make the change. I can go after something. There's something, and here's the difference. Like when we talk about do and being, sometimes you got to do the do to
Yes.
get momentum going.
Yes.
And so if I was a leader and just had hope in things that I'm a leader in, then no.
And so that's brilliant. I believe that there are instances when people lack the clarity that they will default to hope because they don't feel like they have the resources or the inclination or the resourcefulness to be able to levy an opinion in that environment.
Mm.
There are some people who are brilliant in the boardroom and not so much in church.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of people who are brilliant in church and in the boardroom and not in the bedroom.
Well, and it makes a difference because, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And so when that entrepreneur comes home and he's running his household as if everyone is his employee, there's a problem in the relationship with husband and wife and then children.
Yes.
There definitely is. And then with friendship, if I'm friends with them and I'm feeling that you're treating me more like an employee than as a equivalent here in our friendship, then
Right.
you're not my friend. Like I'll come to you as a resource now because now I know that I can come to you as a resource.
Sure.
But friendship where we can share what's going on in our lives and rely on each other to be friends. And, you'll still wake up in the morning and still see me as the strong woman I am just because I had that moment of vulnerability to say, hey, I'm going through this change and I need some support. And I'm not really clear on that. So when you're that entrepreneur in our friendship at home and at work and even at church, if you would, there's going to be a problem. And you're wondering why your life is so out of balance
I was reminded
or out of
by
harmony. We like harmony.
absolutely. I was reminded by my daughter, my youngest daughter, who's 16 now, when she was 10, after coming home from work one day, and she says, "Daddy, can we sit down and have a talk?" And I'm like, "Sure, Kiki. This is different." So we go in my office, and I sit down, and she sits in my chair. I'm like, going, "Okay, what's going on?" She goes, "I was talking with mommy, and I asked her what you do for a living, and she goes, you have a lot of different things that you're involved with." I said, "That is true." She goes, "But on one of them, you're the CEO of a company." And I said, "That is true." She goes, and I asked mommy what's a CEO. She said it's a chief executive officer. And part of this is what you do. And so she goes, "You guide people." And she goes, and I started thinking about it, Dad. And she goes, "You know what? You're not the CEO of me." True
Oh,
story. And I'm like, who have you been talking to? Like, and my wife, I love you too, honey. Thank you. I'm glad you like this because it was embarrassing at the moment it happened. And so, and Keely goes, yeah, Dad, I figured it out. You tell people at work to do, but you don't tell me what to do. She goes, you ask me to do things. You ask me to clean my room. You ask me to study hard. You ask me, to play hard in soccer. She goes, but you don't tell me what to do. And I go, do you think I tell everyone what to do or I ask them? And she goes, oh, I think you tell them. And I was like, really? I go, where do you see Daddy telling a lot of people to do stuff? She goes, I don't. I said, oh. I go, so who am I to you? She goes, you're my dad. You gotta love me. You gotta love me. And I was like, wow, out of the mouth of babes. Because if I had adopted a CEO ideology, if I had adopted a C-suite mentality in home, the results would be very skewed and very different. But having that loving, paternal connection, I married the love of my life. She's my soulmate, 35 years together, hasn't always been perfect, but it's been brilliant. And I will say that those gifts help really frame my identity. But going back to the beginning of this conversation, it is definitely situational specific.
It is. And, I just want to stay on that topic real quick because I think that's great how you brought your work with your child and they saw the difference and you got to see the difference. 2 months ago, I got a coach for my daughter's age and she looked at me, she says, but I don't understand. Why do I need a coach? You're a coach. I hear what you do every day. Right. And I said, because I can't be your coach. I'm your mom. And it was like, I don't get it. And I said, you will have a session. Just have one session with your coach. If you don't like it, that's okay. We don't have to do it again. But I want to give you this opportunity where you could tell her anything and you don't have to worry about her telling me. It's your safe space.
Yep.
You can vent about me and dad, your brother, whoever, because it's your safe space to get that out. But it's also your space to find out what do you want differently and to move towards it.
Right.
And she's going to give mommy and daddy some coaching to tell us what we need to do to support you. She goes, wait, she's going to coach. She's going to tell you what to do. And I said, she's going to make some suggestions on what we should do because she's going to get to see a different side of you that I don't get to see.
Right.
Because I'm your mom.
Yep.
And it's ironic because I coach her coach's son, right? And she's like, I had the same conversation with my son. It's like, Mom, you do this all the time. Like, why do I need it? And she had the same conversation. And it's been such a beautiful thing because if anything, it's taught me, it's really solidified my different identities.
Yes.
That being a coach is different from being a mom. And you've been on my show. You've listened to my show. I'm very vulnerable about the choices I make that don't lead me to where I want to go with my kids. And that's why I talk about it, because if I can save another parent from doing it, because I am not a coach to my kids.
No.
I am a mom. I have blind spots. I get frustrated. I yell. I get irritated. I tell them not now. You got to do it later. I got to do this. I do it.
Yes.
I get it. Guilty is charged, but I'm owning it as that's a different identity of mom. And the other thing that I want to talk about with our identity going back, because just to kind of pull this full circle is, and I think that we should probably we're going to do a show on the life wheel because I think that's so important to talk about not looking at the balance.
Yes.
Stop trying to balance your identities. Find the harmony.
That's exactly.
Find the harmony in them. It's, what do you appreciate? Like, I appreciate the coach in me, but I also can appreciate the mom in me. And I can see my areas of growth. Like, I have a lot of growth to still do as a mom. I get it. And I'm always open to growing. I'm growing as a coach. I'm growing as a friend. I'm growing as a wife. And it's to stop trying to balance it. It's a balancing act because you're going to get so stressed out trying to manage all these different voices in your head.
For everything that you take on, you got to let something go.
Yes.
There's only so much bandwidth. That's what harmony is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what harmony is. It's not, let's balance one thing against the other, yin and yang, push and pull. I go, no. It's that change is going to happen with or without you. And you get to decide where you're going to manifest your focus, energy, and intention to go. So that way you can be your best in that space as a mother, as a friend, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as a professional woman, as a caring soul. You know, it's yes, the answer is yes. And how are you going to do this 24/7, 365 at level 100? Because I said perfection is not achievable. So that's why I love harmony, because harmony exists when things are in discourse, when things are out of whack. Harmony is this equilibrium that is a naturally occurring energy in nature. It strives for equilibrium. It strives to find equality. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It just means that it is.
Right.
So if there's pressure on one side of our head, the other side of our head, our ear might pop. And I go, oh, there was a release on this side. Didn't even know that was, how could that be? Because that's what the body seeks is equilibrium. That's what your soul seeks is equilibrium.
Yes.
And that's what harmony is. It's not like, oh, like in music. What's the most melodic music? I said harmonious music. It has a melody. It has a hook line. It's not like, oh yeah, that one piercing note that like took your synaptic functions out of your brain and triggered everything off. You go, no, that was memorable. That wasn't harmony. That was impact. That was blunt force trauma. And we know people who are like this. Their identity is as a powerhouse. I'm going to bulldoze everybody. And I go, that must be exhausting.
Yeah.
To like feel like you have to wield that sphere of influence on everyone. I go, why? Perceived control? Is it really? Do I want to control my kids or do I want to flow with my kids?
That's a whole nother show, Chuck. Whole nother show.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And the identity, though, that we adopt.
Correct.
And going back, bringing this full circle, it really is the definition of being.
It is. It is.
It really is. And finding that energetic center and that humility. And I so want to commend you on this, and this is really important. In that level of authenticity, what we actually find is unadulterated vulnerability.
Yes.
When we give permission to someone else to coach our kid. You've coached my kids. The deal is that, and you and I have exchanges all the time. And I go, that's beautiful. I don't look at it as, oh, V's telling me what to do. I go, Veenu loves and cares about me, or and care about her. Dude, so let's just get real and raw and put it out there so that we can move through this. We can grow through what we're going through, as our friend Tony Rodriguez would say. And it's important to understand this, because if you're not, then you're suffering through a state. And whatever you resist is going to persist.
It is.
It's going to linger, and it's going to be like stinky cheese. You're like, I don't know what's smelly in the fridge, but every time I open this bad boy, nothing looks nasty, but whoa, doggy. It's like, it smells like Lindbergh in here. Well, no one wants to live a Lindbergh life.
And so just to help the listeners out there, remember, what I said is, in order to figure out your identity, because you need to do it. If you feel you're suffering, the first place I would ask you, invite you to do, is check out, how do you see yourself? Yes. What comes after the I am? Is what comes after taking you towards what you really want in life, that you're manifesting, not dreaming? Or is it holding you back? Because that's what's important. And that's the first step to step at, because we can suffer in any area of our life if we choose to. But I'm going to tell you, the first place I check in, and I can probably speak for Chuck too, is what's the identity in that moment? Who are we in that moment? Who am I in that moment? And we have our breaks. We have that moment where I'm not that. I've give up. I'm done. But you know what that tells me? That's my cue that I need a release. I have built up so much pressure that I need my ear to pop, as you said, right? And it reminds me that as soon as I get that ear to pop, I'm ready to create a new I am statement to make me go further. So it has been another pleasure with you, Chuck, as usual. I can't wait till next Monday. For all our listeners, please tune in. I'm so happy that you guys have joined us again today. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.